If your goal is to carry a firearm concealed 100% of the time you are legally allowed to, then that means you should be looking for a thin, compact, and lightweight firearm. For decades, Glock simply didn't have a gun that met this requirement. And sure, Glock had the dominant position in the marketplace when they introduced the Glock 19. As most of you guys know, I've been carrying a Glock 19 for a little over 10 years now as my daily concealed carry gun. However, I can tell you it's very large, it's heavy, and it's sometimes uncomfortable. To solve this problem, Glock introduced the Glock 43, which was a thin, lightweight, single-stack 9mm. When the Glock 43 was initially released, I rushed to add it to my collection. Because let's face it, I need a reason to buy another gun. One of the first things that I noticed about this pistol is that my hand didn't really fit properly on the small frame. It kind of hung off the bottom a little bit. The next year, Glock introduced a solution to this problem called the Glock 43X, which has rapidly become one of the most popular concealed carry firearms in America. In this video, we're going to discuss the Glock 43X as we perform a 5-point evaluation to determine if this would be the right gun for you. When choosing a firearm for concealed carry, one of my primary concerns is reliability. I need to know that the firearm is going to work when I need it to work. This is one of the many reasons why I love Glock firearms so much. They are extremely simple with about 50% fewer parts than most competitors' firearms, and they just work. I've owned my Glock 43X for several years now, and I've fired thousands of rounds through this pistol. I can tell you guys from personal experience that if you are looking for a reliable firearm that works when you need it to work, the Glock 43X is the pistol for you. The 43X was created to compete directly with the SIG P365, which at the time it was first released was the smallest concealed carry firearm with a 10-round magazine capacity. Shortly after the Glock 43X was released, a company called Shield Arms developed a flush-fitting 15-round magazine for the 43X. This was an absolute game changer. Now, a concealed carry permit holder can have a thinner, lighter weight firearm than the traditional Glock 19 with the exact same reliability and capacity. One of the problems that I have with most concealed carry firearms is that they are too small for my hand. However, the Glock 43X fits like a glove. The frame feels great in my hand does not hang off of the gun at all, and the components are extremely easy to operate. You know, one of the other big issues that I have with Glock firearms typically is that when I buy a Glock 19, it feels kind of square and rectangle in my hand. So I have to spend a lot of time filing off and dremeling the frame, sanding it, and getting it to really fit my hand properly. None of that stuff is necessary with the 43X. I simply bought the gun, shot it, and was like, okay, this is pretty awesome. And then put it in the gun safe. Is the slide easy to operate? Over the years, I have personally trained hundreds of first-time shooters using the Glock 43X. I would say 90% of beginners can operate the slide with some practice. It may be tough at first, but it will get easier. Are the controls easy to reach and operate one-handed? Yes. The 43X only has 3 controls that the user would need to be able to operate. These are the magazine release, slide catch, and the trigger safety. Straight out of the box, the magazine release on the 43X is very flat. While you'll still be able to release the magazine, I find this flat magazine release to be extremely annoying. If you choose to purchase a 43X, I would encourage you to consider upgrading the magazine release with a Vickers Tactical extended magazine release. This is a very inexpensive upgrade that will make a world of difference. The other component that I really am not a big fan of when it comes to the Glock 43X, or really any Glock for that matter, is the slide catch. I'm not sure why I was surprised that the 43X had a flat slide catch, since most Glocks have this standard. On pretty much every Glock that I own, I have decided to install a Vickers Tactical extended slide stop. This allows me to lock or release the slide with ease without repositioning my dominant hand on the frame. The only Glocks that I own that I never install the extended slide catch is Gen 5 Glocks because they come factory with one of these components. One of the common misconceptions people have about Glock firearms is that they don't have safeties. This is simply not true. In fact, Glocks come standard with 3 safeties: the trigger safety, drop safety, and a firing pin safety. Here's how each of these safeties work together to keep you safe. First, we have the trigger safety, which prevents the firearm from being discharged unless the trigger is pulled correctly. Next, we have the firing pin safety, which is a metal pin that prevents the firing pin from striking the primer unless the trigger is pulled. Finally, we have the drop safety. The drop safety is an internal mechanism which prevents the firearm from being discharged if dropped. Does the 43X have a manual thumb safety? No. Glock firearms were designed to be operated intuitively. In the 1970s and 80s, police officers were being found dead on crime scenes, holding their firearms in their hand with their safety still on. So what was happening is during the violent attack, these officers were so overwhelmed that they forgot to deactivate the safety on their firearm. Mr. Glock wanted to simplify the process of using a firearm in self-defense by allowing the user to deactivate the safeties intuitively. Is the magazine easy to load? Sort of. As I mentioned before, I have trained hundreds of first-time shooters on how to properly use the Glock 43X. While most people can load the magazine with ease, some people do need to use a speed loader. Is the Glock 43X easy to disassemble for cleaning? The process of disassembling a firearm for cleaning is called field stripping. To field strip the 43X, simply follow these simple rules. Step 1, review the firearm safety rules. Rule number 1, always keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction. Rule number 2, always keep your finger off the trigger. Rule number 3, always make sure your firearm is unloaded by performing a safety inspection. Next, release the slide, make sure the gun is pointed in a safe direction, and press the trigger. You're going to need to rotate the Glock in your hand, kind of like this, and slightly pull back. This is going to allow you to pull down on the takedown lever, and next, simply allow the slide to move forward off the frame of the gun. Now you'll be able to remove the guide rod and the barrel and begin cleaning or performing maintenance. A lot of people ask me why I own so many Glock firearms, and the simplest answer I can give is tremendous value. Yesterday, I was at the range shooting with a student who recently purchased a Glock 45 for his home defense gun and a SIG P365 XL as his daily concealed carry. So as we were shooting, Evan was voicing his frustration on the price difference between accessories for these two firearms. He said, "I don't understand why I can buy a Glock magazine for $18, but a magazine for my SIG costs $50. Unfortunately, this is a common reality among gun owners. Because Glock firearms are some of the most popular